Amidst a backdrop of intense and punishing battles in the Donbass, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered a defiant address to the nation on the day of the national flag, vowing that Ukraine would never surrender its territory or its sovereignty. Speaking from a historic location in Kyiv, with the blue and yellow national banner raised prominently, Zelensky's speech was a powerful exercise in wartime rhetoric aimed at bolstering the morale of his soldiers and citizens while sending an uncompromising message to both Moscow and the international community. This flag is our identity. It is the symbol of our unbroken spirit, Zelensky declared, his voice firm. It has seen our victories and our tears, and it will see our final victory. We will not gift our land to the occupiers. We will not allow our colors to be replaced. We will fight for every inch of our soil, for every city, for every village, until all of Ukraine is free. The speech was a direct rejection of any notion of a negotiated settlement that would involve ceding Ukrainian territory, stance that resonates deeply with many Ukrainians but complicates the strategic calculus for its allies, particularly the United States under the administration of President Donald Trump. The timing of the address was critical. It came as Ukrainian forces are facing what many military analysts describe as their most difficult moment in the war. The crisis in the Donbass, marked by severe ammunition shortage and a relentless Russian offensive, has put Ukraine on the defensive across the entire Eastern Front. Zelensky's words were intended as a direct counter-narrative to the grim reports from the battlefield. He sought to frame the brutal struggle not as a losing battle, but as a sacred defense of national identity, symbolized by the flag. He spoke directly to the soldiers in the trenches, praising their courage and sacrifice and assuring them that the nation stood united behind them. The speech was broadcast across all national channels and amplified on social media, an attempt to rally the country and still it for promises to be a long and bloody period of conflict. He acknowledged the pain and the loss, but insisted that the will of the Ukrainian people to resist remained unbreakable. This message of resolute defiance is a cornerstone of his wartime leadership, but it also presents a significant challenge for American policymakers who are increasingly focused on finding an off-ramp to the conflict. In Washington, President Zelensky's speech was received with a mixture of admiration and apprehension. The Trump administration, while officially supporting Ukrainian sovereignty, has made it clear that its primary goal is to end the war and halt the massive expenditure of American resources. President Trump himself has often questioned the viability of a total Ukrainian military victory and has expressed a desire to broker a peace deal. A high-ranking administration official, speaking on the condition of anonymity, noted that while the president respects Zelensky's patriotism, there is a growing concern that such an absolute position could become an obstacle to realistic peace negotiations. The administration's perspective is that a prolonged war of attrition may not be in the long-term interest of either Ukraine or the United States. This complex diplomatic position is being managed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Secretary Rubio, a staunch anti-communist and a critic of Russian aggression, must balance his personal views with the president's pragmatic and deal-focused approach. Publicly, the State Department issued a statement reiterating its support for Ukraine and condemning Russian aggression. Secretary Rubio praised the courage of the Ukrainian people and their commitment to freedom. Privately, however, American diplomats are reportedly conveying a more nuanced message to their Ukrainian counterparts, urging them to consider what a politically viable and sustainable end to the conflict might look like. Secretary Rubio's task is to keep the lines of communication open and explore any potential for a diplomatic breakthrough, even if Zelensky's public rhetoric appears to close the door on compromise. The Pentagon, under Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth, is analyzing Zelensky's speech from a starkly military perspective. Secretary Hegseth and the Joint Chief of Staff are focused on the material reality of the battlefield. They are assessing whether Ukraine's declared intention to fight for every inch of territory is a militarily sustainable strategy given the current resource constraint. The Department of Defense is providing President Trump with detailed analysis of the force ratios ammunition consumption rates, and the effectiveness of Russian tactics in the Donbass. Secretary Hexet is a firm believer in projecting strength, but he is also a realist who understands the brutal arithmetic of war. His advice to the president would likely emphasize that without a dramatic and immediate surge in Western military aid, particularly in air defense and long-range artillery, Zelensky's defiance words cannot be translated into battlefield success. He is also tasked with ensuring that any aid provided to Ukraine does not critically deplete U.S. military stockpiles, a key concern for the Trump administration's America's First agenda. The U.S. intelligence community is working to understand the deeper current beneath Zelensky's powerful address. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, a longtime advocate for more cautious and non-interventionist foreign policy, is overseeing the assessment of the speech impact. Intelligence agencies are analyzing Ukrainian public opinion to determine if Zelensky's uncompromising stance reflects the will of a war-weary population. They are also closely monitoring the reaction in Moscow. Director Gabbard's briefings to the president would likely question whether this defiant posture might provoke Russia into escalating its attack, potentially targeting civilian infrastructure more aggressively to break the will of the Ukrainian people. CIA Director John Ratcliffe's agency is focused on gathering human intelligence from the front lines and from within the Ukrainian government, provide a granular picture of morale and to identify any potential fissures between the political leadership in Kyiv and the military command on the ground. President Zelensky's Flag Day address was not just for domestic consumption. It was a clear message to his international partner that Ukraine is not prepared to be a pawn in a great power negotiations. By publicly committing to the complete liberation of all occupied territories, including Crimea, he is raising the stakes and making it more difficult for allies to pressure him into accepting a peace deal that would formalize the loss of land. This strategy carries significant risk. It could alienate members of the Trump administration and other Western leaders who are looking for a pragmatic end to the war. However, it could also galvanize support among those in the international community who believe that Russian aggression must be completely defeated, not just contained. It forces a choice upon Ukraine's partners: either provide the necessary tools for total victory or be seen as abandoning Ukraine in its hour of need. The speech also highlighted the central role of national identity and historical narrative in this conflict. For Ukraine, the war is not simply about territory. It is an existential struggle for the right to exist as an independent nation with its own language, culture, and political future. The blue and yellow flag is the most potent symbol of this struggle. By centering his address on the flag, Zelensky tapped into a deep well of national pride and historical grievance. This is a powerful motivating force, but it is one that can be difficult for outside observers focused on geopolitics and resource allocation to fully appreciate. The Trump administration, with its transactional approach to foreign policy, may find it challenging to align its strategic interests with what is, for Ukraine, a deeply emotional and existential fight. In conclusion, President Zelensky's Flag Day speech was a masterclass in wartime leadership, a defiant roar in the face of a brutal and powerful enemy. His declaration that we will not gift our land served as a powerful rallying cry for a nation under siege. However, this unwavering commitment to total victory creates a complex and challenging dynamic for the United States. The Trump administration, guided by a desire to end the war and limit American entanglement, must now navigate a path between supporting an ally's right, self-defense, and pushing for a diplomatic resolution that may require painful compromises. As the war in the Donbass grinds on, Zelensky's words hang in the air, a testament to the indomitable will of the Ukrainian people, but also a stark reminder of the immense and perhaps insurmountable gap between their aspiration for total victory and the grim realities of the battlefield. That's all for me for today. If you like the video presentation and you would like to follow for more, hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build the show for you. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Bye for now.